We have a couple of new and updated initiatives that we're going to start this meeting off with. First of all, I would like to welcome David Gilmore and Matt Howgate, who are joining us from DG Legal. Matt will be discussing and showing Compliance Champion, which is an online management tool for specialist nonprofit advice agencies, especially those with quality standards and regulated by the SRA or OISC, that they've developed with support from the Legal Education Foundation. So over to you both.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Good morning. I'm David Gilmore, founder of DG Legal and the sister company Leicester LLP. And I'm here with my colleague Matt to talk about Compliance Champion. Now, we've been in the sector for around about, well, more than 25 years now, and over the past 25 years, Matt and I have visited significantly more than 100 not-for-profit advice agencies. Typically, we come across similar governance and compliance issues across the sector, and we felt that many of the issues that we encounter could be avoided and time saved if effective software was designed and rolled out. So the purpose of Compliance Champion is to provide advice agencies with several benefits, including removing compliance headaches, improving governance, increasing efficiency, saving time, and also to enable agencies to store their most important central records, including file reviews, for instance. Now, the software is actually free of charge for 12 months, and if advice agencies do find that it saves them time and money, then they are able to continue using it for a relatively small monthly fee of £60. So I'm going to hand over to Matt, who's going to take you through just a little bit of a mini whistle-stop tour. So over to you, Matt.
Thanks, David. I'm going to share my screen just so you can all see what the Compliance Champion looks like in real life and in real time. It's a secure GDPR compliant online tool, and we've tried to keep it as simple as possible. The other thing to say is it's evolving. It evolves with feedback as people tell us they want to make a change or add something or rename something. Then as long as it's a good idea and we think it's going to be more broadly acceptable to everybody, we will happily make changes. As David's already said, it does a few things. It's a secure repository for information. And any of you that have had the joy of taking over an organisation will know that more often than not, the information you need from a management or compliance or audit perspective isn't always in the place you think it might be. So one of the really important things about Compliance Champion is it creates a space for everything to be kept. And everything that's needed for audits. And as, again, David's touched on, and as Emily mentioned in the introduction, this is very much built around organisations that are required to comply with, say, OISC regulation or solicitors regulation, authority regulation, or those that perhaps have legal aid contracts and as a consequence have to have the specialist quality mark or the Lexel quality standard in place. So it's built around those to make sure that you can comply with those. So what you've got on screen is the homepage for the particular Compliance Champion app. We always put details of DG Legal webinars on the front page just so you can keep on top of what's happening. But let me show you some examples. Central records. We all have to have a certain amount of central records that we keep. If you click on it, what you'll see is we've brought together as many of the relevant central records as we can. Now, not all of your organisations will have all of these records, and nor will they need to have all of these records. But if you are a regulated legal aid practice or a regulated practice generally, then you probably will have some or all of these. Let me go down and pick one. Let's have the risk register. So if I pick risk management and have a look at a risk register, I'll click on it, and then what you can see on the screen is at the moment it's blank because I'm using a demo version. But if I wanted to add a risk in and start building a risk register, I can click on Add New. And what it does is it allows me for each risk to go through and identify the risk and deal with all of the relevant questions associated with managing, mitigating, allocating that particular risk. Once I've completed all of these boxes, it starts to create and populate a risk register. Now that risk register will sit here on the Compliance Champion, or if you needed to for audit or other purposes, you could download it as effectively as an Excel document. But it's available for you to look at and use and amend and update change. And as a new risk evolves, you can go on and add it. And as a risk passes, you can delete it from your risk register. But the point here is, by structuring the way you enter it, you're less likely to forget things that you should have put on there that you wouldn't otherwise have done so. Let me go to compliance as another example. All of you will be handling personal data, client personal data, staff personal data, trustee personal data, and you should therefore have done an audit on your personal data handling, and you should have some idea of where you're processing it and how you're processing it. So what we've done, if you haven't done that, or even if you do it on an updated basis, is we've created a record which allows you to do that. Again, let's click on Add New, and it takes you through various questions that you need to complete in order to better understand how and why and where you're processing data, how long you're going to have it, where you're going to share it, what you're going to do with it. And being asked those questions makes you think about that compliance, think about those points, think about whether you're compliant with the Act. And of course, once you've done it, it adds it into the record, which is there for you to keep and change and amend moving forwards. So what you can see is not only do we have a place for the records, but we also guide you through the nature of the records and the content of the records. If you've got your own documents, we've got space for you to just upload them. So instead of using our templates, you could just upload the ones that you've already got, maybe forever, or maybe just whilst you're moving over from one system to another system. Governance and resources, again, we've created a place for organisational documentation to be uploaded, things like your business plan, job descriptions, contracts. We've even got a place on here for things like grant letters and the minutes of board meetings, and things like conflict and interest registers for members and for trustees. Now, one of the most powerful functions on here, and I'm realising that I've got very little time left, are the monthly checklists. So what we've done is we've created some monthly checklists on management and compliance, which are there to force you to think about all of the things you should have done during the month in certain circumstances. So we can make it the current month, and then it will take you through a list of questions. So have new staff members joined, yes or no? Not applicable. Has every new staff member been issued with a contract of employment? Now, of course, the answer should be yes, because you should have been doing that when they joined. But if you were to click no, it asks you why and what you're going to do about it. So it forces you to think about those things that you should have done as a manager. And of course, as David said, sadly, where we get called in is where things have gone wrong because people have forgotten to do stuff they should have been doing. And as you run through the checklist, what you find is that all of the key things you should have been considering on a monthly basis are covered. And if you answer no or yes, depending on the nature of the question, you'll get a box up to explain what you need to do, or for you to explain what you're going to do about it. And then the last tool, which is worth talking about, is the calendar. The calendar allows you to allocate tasks to yourself or to other users of the software. So if, for instance, somebody's job is to review a policy on an annual basis, you can put in the date of review in the calendar, you can allocate it to that individual, and then not only will they be told immediately that they've been allocated the task, but on the morning of the date that they're supposed to do the review, there'll be an email reminder that it's the day they're supposed to go and review whatever the health and safety policy, the data security policy, the home working policy, whichever thing you've allocated to them. So what we've got here is a simple process for you to keep an eye on all of the things that you really need to be thinking about as a manager, that your board need to be thinking about, and that if you've got a senior solicitor, because you're operating a legal practice that's regulated, that they need to be thinking about as well. So that's a pretty swift run through of the various features. The other thing that's worth saying is you can limit user access to certain parts of this system. So, for instance, people management, we've created space to put personnel records on. Now, some of you may have HR systems that do that perfectly adequately, and of course you would then use this. But if you did want to use this and you wanted to keep records on there, you could limit access to that to only certain managers or only certain individuals. So not everybody in the organisation would have access to all of the issues. And as you can see on the other side here, we've got space for you to upload constitutional documents and grant applications and grant award letters, because trust me, having taken over a few organisations in crisis, trying to lay your hands on those critical documents is always far harder than you anticipate it could be. David, anything that you wanted to say before I hand back to Emmeline, because I think we've had our 10 minutes.
Well, we just had a question saying, does this system aid compliance with the AQS, the Advanced Quality Standard? And the answer would be yes, it would help compliance with any quality assurance standard. So it's a place where not only could you store all of your quality assurance records, but you could also grant temporary access to the auditor, and it would make the auditor's job a lot easier as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you both so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I know, Matt, that you have to drop off the call early, I believe. So if anyone has any questions for Matt, please do ask them now or share via the chat so he has time to answer, and we'll follow up where necessary. But it looks like we have time for maybe one question live. Did anyone have anything that they wanted to ask before we move on to the next speaker? I'm trying to see if there's any raised hands. No, doesn't look like. Jump in if I'm missing you, but it looks like I don't see any raised hands. Perfect. Okay. Well, if anything does arise, like I said, please do. Oh, it looks like. Is this the question? Will the demo be available on video to share with others in the organization?
So obviously, I think you said this session would be videoed, but in any event, yeah, we could very easily produce a short video of that demo, which I can make available through DG Legal and Leicester. So we'll let Emily know and Martha know, and they can circulate something. And I've also put my email address in the chat if anybody wants to ask questions afterwards. So feel free to contact me if you need to.
Yeah, we've only shown a small snapshot of the system, so we'll record a much more comprehensive demo, and we can indeed give any advice agency temporary access for a couple of weeks just to have a play with it, familiarise yourselves with it. It doesn't come with a manual because it's very intuitive.
Great, thank you so much. And yes, this session will be recorded and circulated after, and then we can work, Matt, with you. And if you have a video, we can make sure to circulate that to the group as well. Great. Well, do keep using the chat if anything else comes up in the way of questions. Without further ado, we'll move on to our next speaker. So it's lovely to be joined by Alex Monaco, who is the CEO of Grapple. Grapple is an AI-backed employment law document creation tool, which helps claimants to write the key documents in an employment case when they've been treated badly at work. It's helped over 30,000 people and won various awards, including the 2021 Law Society Award for Excellence in Tech and Innovation. So Alex, over to you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
This is obviously a tool for employees. So say you're at work and you've been discriminated against or treated badly, unfairly dismissed. Very, very common, sadly, as most of you will know. You know, you're going through this multi-select option. So in this example, someone's still employed, more than 2 years service, and they've experienced some bullying, harassment, performance issues, and physical or mental health condition. They didn't complain to their employer about it. And then the final select is, you know, some more niche kind of points. So unsupported with mental health, made to feel humiliated and stressed. I'm sure we've all been there at work at one point or other in our careers. Went off sick because of work stress, verbally abused by manager, been bullied. So from there, you get an advice note. This advice note tells you about your rights. So this is about time limits. You know, you've got a 3-month time limit in employment, which is the thing that stops access to justice in employment cases. It's this 3-month time limit. So you're still employed, a bit about that, a bit about bullying and harassment, you know, whatever you selected. So this is a slightly more generic advice note that you can then download and email to yourself for, you know, future reference. And onto the sort of the real juicy bit, which is this starts writing you a letter. So you've got a couple of options. You can write a grievance letter if you want to stay in your job, or you can write a without prejudice letter if you want to leave your job. This is a template that it's produced that, you know, frankly, most people couldn't write. I'll come back to this. So you then put in the details of your case, so description of your case. So in this person here is saying that they were working there for 15 years. They're the oldest employee, and one of a minority of female employees. A lot of people are 20 or more years younger. They've been treated rudely and sarcastically, and they've been suffering mental health because of that, of anxiety issues and so on. And the manager has been telling me off about this stuff. So then from there, we've now integrated ChatGPT into this. I'm just going to have to show you a video of how that looks, because it's working at the moment. It's only working on our local server, so this is really hot off the press. You will probably all use ChatGPT by now. Basically, what it's doing is it's combining ChatGPT, all the magic that ChatGPT brings, with an employment law ontology, which we've developed with collaborations with the University of Surrey, with Imperial College London. We also had a grant from Innovate UK, which is an AI, like a research branch of a government-funded organization. And, you know, I'll come back to sort of some of the other collaborations that I've been working with other people with. But as you can see, what you'll find here with this kind of letter is that no one's going to be able to write this kind of thing off the bat, right? Failure to make reasonable adjustments, unfavorable treatment because of something arising from a disability, UK employees. You know, this is aimed at the people who are not high-flying city executives, who are not, you know, necessarily white-collar employees. So this is aimed at the millions and millions of people who really are not sure about what their rights are and how to implement their rights. And we see that all the time in my other organization, which is Monaco Solicitors, and that's why we kind of made this thing. So I will go into a bit more background in a minute, but just to show you a video of a lady who's used this. And this is a lady that's come to our law firm because she couldn't get anything from her union. So this is a union member who couldn't get hold of a union rep and couldn't write a grievance and so on. And she used this tool. This was actually before the ChatGPT integration. So you can imagine how happy she's going to be now. But I'll just show this video. You know, tell me what you're thinking. Speak, you know, think out loud if you know what I mean.
Right, okay. So based on what I've put in, this puts together like what I could have sent off as my formal grievance. Is that right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, it's
I could have done with this.
yeah. Why? What?
Well, because I've got no background in any of this, no experience of any of this. So to say, like, when I looked at the grievance procedure, it is very vague, and it does say, you know, submit a grievance to your manager, but I don't know what a grievance is.
Yeah.
It took me ages because you've got to like writing it from scratch, and then it's the whole, you don't want to send something while you're annoyed. So it's then stepping away and just making sure it's very factual. You've got everything in that you need.
Yeah.
Whereas if you see this.
So it gives you the style as well, doesn't it? It gives you the the tone of voice, the form. I'm just going to stop the screen share at this point, and I'll come back to the screen share if people want to see any of that again, because I know it just took you straight through really quick. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to invite any discussions, because this is always a really big issue for people. It's like Marmite. People think about AI in legal services, and they love it, they hate it. So let's see some questions in the chat here. How do you make sure that ChatGPT isn't bringing in false information, such as made up court cases? Right, so that's why this is different from just using ChatGPT, because if you just use ChatGPT, it's, you know, it is liable to hallucinate a bit, as we call it in sort of AI circles, right? So that means that it, you know, it can go off on a tangent, it can write things that you didn't really want it to, but we've made this whole ontology around employment law. So what we've done is we've codified employment law into a structure that, into computer code effectively, which is quite difficult in itself. And that puts ChatGPT on rails. So it builds a really strong foundation for ChatGPT to then integrate the employee's free text, their version of what happened to them, into our ontology, and it creates a letter that's better than ChatGPT on its own, and obviously better than what an employee can do on their own. What someone else said, why did you integrate with ChatGPT? And if you're using it, how do you stop it from hallucinating? Okay, we've just looked at that. Do you have a step where a member of staff sense checks it before it goes out? So we offer this in different ways. We do offer a service where we would check it in my law firm, Monaco Solicitors. In Grapple, my tech company, it's just a fully automated service. So is there a charge for the service? I mean, there certainly wants to be, because it was expensive to build. And, you know, ultimately innovation itself is not, yeah, it's not possible to innovate without funding. And I don't know if you've ever tried to build software, but it's just not practical. I mean, software developers are very expensive people to employ, and you can't ask them just to work for free. Especially, and data scientists as well, even more expensive. Is any data entered by users transferred back to OpenAI when you use ChatGPT? So if you use the API, they say that they will keep the data for 30 days in order to guard against misuse. So they say they don't use it for training data. It doesn't go into the sort of the big AI pot to then train the machine. It's just something that they keep it there in case of any sort of safeguarding issues. What about the cases where the employees feel disgruntled, but in fact need to be told there is no real case? Sending a grievance letter might not be the course of action. Yeah, it's a very good point. This is from Victoria Speed. So it give you an example, Victoria. If an employee has less than 2 years service, right? If you've been employed for less than 2 years, and you're not suffering from any discrimination or whistleblowing, victimization, or health and safety issues, then you don't have a case. So even if you've been bullied, but sadly bullying is not illegal in UK law, you might not, you might be surprised to learn, as long as it's not based on a protected characteristic like pregnancy or age or race and so on. So yeah, in those cases, it does flash up, and it will be telling people, sorry, we don't think you've got a case. You can still write a grievance, frankly. You can still write a grievance against the bullying manager, and your company might be a bit more open-minded than just the bare bones law. But I think, and if you don't mind me just sort of generalizing and all these questions, this is the classic approach that people have taken in the legal sector. The legal sector is not famous for its kind of forward-thinking approach to technology, you know, in the past. I think that's all changing now, because you've seen people like Daniel Barnett really going on about ChatGPT, and I think we're pretty much all start to use that. So this year, that's all kind of changing now, whether we like it or not. And this is what I've said to the SRA, because I'm advising the SRA in roundtable discussions, in you know, in small group discussions with their policy and innovation units. And what I've said to them is that the current, for those of you who are solicitors or regulated by the SRA, the current pillars of their mission are to try and increase confidence in the in legal services amongst consumers. And one of the ways of doing that is by providing really high quality legal advice. And I think that's wrong, because we see thousands. In fact, we've had over 2 million people on our website. We've probably seen millions of people who can't access justice. They can't access a solicitor. They don't have the money. they can't pay for legal advice. So why are you comparing a machine against a human? There's only 6,000 employment lawyers in the UK. There's 30 million employees. And out of those, probably 3 million, which is roughly about 10%, probably have a problem at any one time. You can't possibly advise them all. So what we're not saying this is better than a person, because it's not better than I'm an employment lawyer. I don't think it's better than me. Is it better than some of my trainees that I take on when they start off? Yeah, actually, to be honest, yes, it is. It's better than a trainee. And how many of you got unlimited, employment lawyers or trainee lawyers in your organization? So it's not really about whether it's better than a person, whether it's better than an expert or a judge or King's Counsel or an employment lawyer. It's about whether it's better than what we currently have, and whether it gives people more access to justice than they currently have. And ultimately, in my philosophy, we should be embracing this new technology as it comes out. ChatGPT has got problems. We've seen, loads of stuff in the papers. It's, and like I said, it's like Marmite. So I totally understand people, not wanting to use it, but it is coming and it is here. It's not even coming, it's here. And this is it, basically, what I've just shown you. So it's about how and when you might use it.
Sorry, just to pop in, Alex, I have to move on to the next speaker because of a tight schedule, but it'd be great if you could maybe answer those questions in the chat. But thank you so much for a great session. And because we are a little bit short on schedule, we're going to move on to our next presenter. So would like to introduce Carrie Gersheimer, who is the Chief Executive and founder of Access Social Care. Carrie will be giving an update on their legal chatbot, which delivers legal information about community care and welfare benefits to older or disabled people, their families, and carers. So Carrie, take it away.
I'm joined today by Finn Mulholland, who's our product manager, and Ailey Towns, our head of business development. So they'll be able to answer questions in the chat as we go. So my presentation is about our award-winning legal information chatbot, which some of you will have heard about before. Just a bit of background. So many of you know that adult social care is in crisis. The Association of Directors of Adult Social Services in England conducted a survey in the spring, and it describes the current adult social care landscape. So we know that the number of people requesting adult social care has increased in most council areas over the past 12 months. And yet 3/4 of councils are saying that they don't have enough funding to meet even the most basic statutory duties. Social care providers are struggling to recruit and retain staff, and in some cases are closing because they're no longer able to make their services commercially viable. We've got NHS pressures, of course, and a focus on discharge, putting even more strain on social services, and we've got about 500,000 people in limbo just waiting for an assessment of their needs. So demand for advice is huge, and these issues affect all of us. So 1 in 5 of us are disabled, and 1 in 5 adults in this country are providing unpaid care. So that 1 in 5 of us are carers. There are significant impacts on the lives of carers and disabled people. So carers and disabled people are more likely to live in poverty than the general population, have poorer health outcomes, and report a negative impact on work and personal relationships. So it won't surprise this audience to hear most of the people we support have low legal capability and rely on publicly funded legal aid. And at the same time as the cuts to social care, access to justice to challenge unlawful public body decisions has reduced dramatically. So there's been an absolutely staggering 77% drop in the number of legal aid cases taken on for community care since 2010. And charity helplines are under-resourced and overwhelmed. And I think this really speaks to Alex's last point. I absolutely endorse what he said. There's just not enough lawyers. And in that context, we can't ignore the technology. So Access Social Care is a specialist health and social care advice providing organisation. We work with diverse groups and communities across England to increase knowledge of the law and rights. And our purpose is to improve the lives of people with health and social care needs by collaborating with all parts of the system. So we've got a 98% success rate. We help individuals to use the law to secure better health and social care outcomes. We are developing technology to increase efficiency and impact, and we work with experts by experience, advisory panels and community partners to help us with the design, delivery and decision making around the development of that technology, to ensure that our product and our services are informed by the voices of the people that we serve. So we link our specialist community care expertise to social care providing organisations, helplines and community-based organisations through a membership arrangement, and that's delivered by our dedicated team of specialist community care lawyers. But we're not able to meet demand for that service due to a shortage of community care lawyers. So to meet growing demand for legal support around community care, we have developed this chatbot. The chatbot provides 24/7 independent legal support and guidance to people across England, and the chatbot can now be hosted on partner websites. The chatbot, as I've said, is available 24/7. Its purpose is to help advice-seeking disabled people, paid and unpaid carers, and that's with relevant, accurate and timely information about social care rights. So the chatbot takes the user through their situation and guides the user to information, guidance or a letter which can be personalised within the chatbot system. So the chatbot prioritizes a person-centered approach. It learns from chatbot conversations, so it has that AI within it. It covers law in England and it harvests thematic data, but very minimal sensitive data. Now, when I ran the MenCap helpline, we just didn't have the resources to pick up the phone to help everybody, and we don't have resources here at Access Social Care either. So the chatbot, we know, adds value by helping organisations to provide information to more people in an affordable way. It's helping generalist organisations to provide more specialist advice, and we're helping maximise the use of humans by automating some of that early advice so that staff resources are used where most needed. The chatbot, as I've said, also gathers data which can inform service development and policy work. So the chatbot provides benefits, including analytics reports to inform strategic planning. It reduces pressure on helplines and frontline staff, and it has extensive health and social care content, including over 150 different letters that can be personalised within the technology. So it's worth noting here that currently the focus of the chatbot is social care, but we are interested in expanding the content to cover new areas. So we're already in conversations with other organisations about welfare benefits and housing content, for example. So this slide shows our journey so far. The chatbot prototype won the Nesta Prize in 2020. We leveraged the Nesta Prize to attract more funding and launched the minimum viable product on our website in 2021. Over the following year, we worked with users to make improvements to the chatbot, including adding a letter writing function. Now, over the past year, we've developed the software as a service platform so that we could start licensing the chatbot to other organisations. And we're now piloting hosting the chatbot on 6 pilot partner websites, including the National Autistic Society and a range of local organisations with a particular focus on racialised communities. So our pilot partners benefit from exclusive access to our dedicated chatbot team, who support partners to host a version of the chatbot branded to suit their requirements. Pilot partners benefit from a discounted license fee and the ability to shape the future product. We want a range of organisations to benefit from this opportunity and to ensure the chatbot harvests thematic and demographic data to inform evidence-based influencing work and strategic casework. So to date, There have been nearly 1,000 conversations through that pilot, and because it's not yet in the live part of the National Autistic Society, so we're expecting that to increase quite dramatically shortly. But already more than 67 local authorities have been selected, which is a real indication of the potential reach of the chatbot. So the annual pilot partner contributions to take part in that pilot range quite significantly, because we want to make sure that the chatbot is available to really tiny advice organisations as well as the larger ones. So we've got one national charity contributing around 35,000, and others contributing 5,000, and then the smaller ones contributing 500 to £1,000 a year. So we're now looking actively for more pilot partners to host the chatbot on their websites, and that's just a big shout out to everybody on this call. Users, as you can see from this slide, feedback from chatbot users is really positive. We are, as I've said, interested in onboarding more pilot partner organisations in the next 6 months. These slides will be circulated after the presentation, and if you click on the link there where it says Meet Alice, you can try the chatbot on our website. So our contact details are here if you want to find out more. Thanks for listening to the presentation. And just one last thing before I go, we're delivering a State of the Nation report webinar, which contains data from our chatbot, as well as from a range of national helpline organisations. That's happening on the 19th of October, and we'll be presenting findings from our national collaborative data project. So if anybody's interested in that, please let us know and we'll send you out some details. I don't think I've got time to do a demo. I just so I'll stop sharing. Where am I?
Thank you so much, Carrie. Yeah, just for time's sake, we will move on. But if anyone has any questions for Carrie, please do pop them in the chat, as I've been saying, and perhaps Carrie, you could respond to any questions there.